You're now watching BBC World, the BBC's international news channel.
From the slowdown in nuclear disarmament, missing nuclear devices, and morality and arms sales, can the two ever be reconciled? Participants are former US Secretary of State George Shultz and the former Russian Foreign Minister Andrei Kozyrov. So join me, Tim Sebastian, in San Francisco for the State of the World debate, live at these times on BBC World.
The world headlines are next on BBC World.
Is this the cost of living? Escape with World Living at these times on BBC World.
Science and technology after the news on BBC World in Horizon. With news and information 24 hours a day, this is BBC World.
Hello, I'm Peter Dobby with a summary of the world news. China has finished a major phase of its Three Gorges hydroelectric dam project. The barriers on the Yangtze have been closed to block the flow of the river from construction of the main dam to begin.
The last boulders fell into place exactly on cue. It was a moment of national triumph choreographed to perfection. the Yangtze River flows no more. China's communist leaders were there to claim the credit, proof in their view of the superiority of the socialist system and of the Chinese race. President Jiang Zemin said the Chinese people were moving heaven and earth to build their future. Big dams may have gone out of fashion elsewhere, but not in China. When it's finished, the Three Gorges Dam will be the biggest hydroelectric project in the world. But it comes at a price. The famous Three Gorges will disappear under a reservoir 400 miles long. Farms, villages and towns will be submerged, not to mention more than 1,000 archaeological sites in this cradle of Chinese civilization. 1.2 million people have to move house, the biggest forced migration in Chinese history. But every year this river floods. In this century alone, it's killed 300,000 people. The government says the dam will put an end to all of that.
Controlling the mighty Yangtze has always been an obsession for China's rulers, and the current leadership prides itself on mounting the biggest building project since the Great Wall. But making the Three Gorges Dam a symbol of national pride has its dangers. If anything goes wrong, it could become exactly the opposite, and China's leaders find themselves presiding over a national humiliation. Carrie Gracie, BBC News, the Yangtze River.
Now, Vietnam has launched an international appeal for help to cope with the aftermath of a typhoon which devastated much of the south of the country on Sunday. Officials said appeals had gone out to governments and international organizations to join rescue and relief efforts. More than 300 people are reported to have been killed in the Mekong Delta. Tens of thousands of people are homeless, their villages washed away. UN arms inspectors have again halted their activities after the authorities in Iraq prevented American members of the team from entering weapons sites. But the UN has said it will resume flights of its U-2 surveillance aircraft on Monday, despite Iraqi threats to shoot it down. And that's all from the World Newsroom for the moment. Bye-bye.
Hello again. Well, let's start this time by looking at the wet weather across in northeastern parts of the United States. You can see the bright colours here, the red indicating some particularly torrential rainfall around Washington, D.C. just recently. And also at Baltimore, we've collected now something like the normal November rainfall in just 30 hours, not far off the average. About 64 millimetres has occurred in the past day and a bit. And there's more wet weather to come as well, with that area of low pressure still close by throughout Saturday. It'll gradually move away northwards, but still some strong winds and some heavy rainfall in the short term before high pressure builds in from the Great Lakes, so dry weather moving in. But on the western side, some heavy snowfall likely up there in the more northwestern parts, with low pressure developing again around the Rockies. Well, across the Pacific Ocean now, things are fairly quiet across in Korea and Japan, fairly clear skies here. Average temperatures too around about 18 or 19 degrees. If we look at the league table, we can see what's happening for the next couple of days. During Sunday and Monday, about 9 degrees in Vladivostok, fine and bright. Osaka about 19 degrees, lots of sunshine here. And Busan, that little bit cooler at around about 16 degrees. But a good deal of fine and sunny weather to come. Into India now, where things are, of course, somewhat different, mainly due to Linda, which is still there in the Bay of Bengal. It's drifting very, very slowly northwestwards just at the moment. In the south of India, there will be some more heavy showers through Madras southwards into Sri Lanka, but fine weather as you go further north, and we're looking at temperatures well up around 30 degrees or more in many parts of India and into Pakistan as well. Very similar conditions here, really hot weather to come. But now looking into Africa, where it's been particularly stormy, of course, across the central parts, where you'd expect it to be through these tropical regions just lately. I think it's going to stay very much the same way as those storms continue drifting from east to west across tropical regions. A little bit further south as well, down through Angola and into Zaire, but plenty of sunshine nonetheless. There will be some more showers developing, though, in those southeastern parts of Africa as we go through the next few days. Now, of course, it's been particularly hot down in Pretoria just recently, up as high as 36 degrees. It's going to stay hot, but summer certainly arrived, though I don't think it'll be quite so hot in the next 48 hours. That's it from me.
The seasoned rail traveller is cosmopolitan.
You don't speak English, do you, by any chance?
Calm and unshakable.
these chicken feet are cold.
Dignified. But above all, quick to make friends.
Ni hao.
Great Railway Journeys, your season ticket to the world's most outstanding journeys by rail, departs these times on BBC World.
We explore the worlds of science and technology next on BBC World in Horizon.
Welcome to the dawning of a new era, where an unprecedented standard in luxury, comfort, hospitality, and an irresistible selection of the world's finest dining awaits you at Hanoi's first international standard 5-star hotel, Hanoi Daewoo Hotel.
When you consider how much goes into your work, why would you send it with anyone else? DHL, the world's leading air express service.
Can you distinguish the man from the politician?
It wasn't just to save ourselves. I could have still been president today.
Separate the opportunist from the radical?
Legality is in the eye and the mind of the lawmaker.
The discussion from the soundbite.
We must remember, human rights is not a monopoly of the West.
Discover the life behind the image. For the Daily International interview, the choice is hard talk, at these times on BBC World.
This is BBC World. Now, Horizon asks whether the 500,000-year-old human remains discovered in a South England chalk pit belonged to a scavenger or a hunter in the butchers of Boxgrove.
In 1993, Roger Pedersen, an amateur archaeologist, discovered something unusual in a gravel pit in Sussex.
Since it was Friday, I had to be quite careful that I didn't start finding things that would need particular attention, because I have to go home for the weekend at 4 o'clock. I was actually digging in a trench when I found that there was a bone. I knew that there was something unusual about it.
The discovery was the opening chapter in a detective story. Who was this human ancestor whose remains had been unearthed after so long? What did he look like? When did he die? In the spring of 1995, the archaeologists went back to the site to try to solve the puzzle of Boxgrove Man. They were led by archaeologist Mark Roberts.
Frank, can you come down? Sit down there. Sit down.
Boxgrove is a very important site. Even before the hominid was found, archaeologically it was very significant, because you've got stone tools, you've got animal remains being found in a virtually undisturbed context, as virtually as they were left 500,000 years ago.
You don't get many sites like this with such good quality of material, and the fact that it's very fine sediments means that everything is pretty much where it was dropped, where it was left, and that's almost unique.
I would like to be standing here holding a piece of the skull of Boxgrove Man. I won't be greedy. I won't say I'd like to find the whole of the skull of Boxgrove Man. A piece of the frontal bone of the skull of Boxgrove Man would do me very nicely, and hopefully the remains of about 6 of his relatives as well.
This is Francis Wimban Smith, senior supervisor at the site, washing his feet after a hard day in the sun.
The archaeologists used a video camera to catch key events and record daily progress over the summer.
And here are the rest of the jolly team.
Next week, on Monday, what were you going to do with them?
The only people who are employed are the staff. The rest come for the love of it, really. So we've got to try and make it as pleasant for them as possible. Not just so they have a good time, but so we can get the most out of them.
You want a hominid?
I want a hand axe.
skeleton.
I want a nice hand axe.
I think we'd like some signs of some habitation, some huts. Temporary structures, anything like that. That's what I'm looking for.
It's really amazing to hold a piece of land in your hand that you know somebody 500,000 years ago was.
Yeah, you're the first person to touch it.
Yeah, you're the first person to uncover it.
500,000 years.
Such an odd feeling.
London's Natural History Museum is now the guardian of the bone that made Boxgrove famous.
This is the tibia that was found at Boxgrove. It's very complete in the shaft region. It's missing the ends, but there's enough there to give us some important information about the owner of this bone. The sorts of questions we would hope to get from a bone like this are things like body size. How heavy was this individual? That's important if we're looking at considerations of brain size versus body size. We also would hope to get a picture of the body proportions. What kind of body shape did this person have? Because in modern people, people who live in cold conditions are differently shaped from people who live in warm conditions.
In Sussex, the quest was on to unearth more fossils. For Mark Roberts, the site is a window into prehistoric life.
I'm particularly interested in what people are doing. We've spent a long time looking at the flints, looking at the bone, measuring them, looking at the species, etc., etc. But the real thing that I want to be able to do is be able to present concrete sort of evidence for different facets of human behaviour in this period.
Any discovery, however small, could be a vital clue. So everything found was meticulously recorded. Almost at once, Boxgrove began to yield up secrets in the form of scores of flint tools.
This is fairly common, I think, for the hand axes here, at least for the ones I've seen. Somebody knew what they were doing when they made this thing.
I'd like you to hand it to me, please, in a ceremonial fashion. Thank you, man. Beautiful piece. Yeah. Chuck it in a box.
They're certainly not just found at Boxgrove. They're found all over the sort of western half of the old world. Africa, the Middle East, Western Asia, and Europe. And of course, one of the big mysteries is what were these being used for? They have a lifespan of over 1 million years, and they're found in different environments with different kinds of hominids. So what are these stone tools being used for? And Boxgrove obviously can help us answer questions like that.
To solve the mystery of the flint tools, the archaeologists experimented with making their own.
You usually start off using the pebble, and then you can sort of bring in the soft hammer, which is the antler. And there's no actual direct evidence of them using antler at Boxgrove, but there's a lot of direct archaeological evidence that they were using bone. You see that's worked pretty well. You can see there where the flakes come off across the tip. It's basically got everything you need. It's a handle. This whole thing is a handle, and although it's sort of sinuous and occasionally has sharp bits around the edge, you actually hold on to it firmly. It gives you a good grip. Secondly, it's got like this sharp, very sharp tip, and that you could use for cutting anything. You could cut into skin, quite thick skin.
From all over the world, scientists came to ponder the mysteries of the fossil shin.
Put the pieces together. No, it helps if I get it the right way around. Okay, here's Boxgrove, and when we look at this and...
Eric Trinkus from New Mexico came to investigate how the Boxgrove shin relates to other fossil limb bones from the Pleistocene, the scientific term for the last 2 million years.
And it's really much more robust than this probably much more similar length specimen from Gough's Cave, from the Mesolithic of Gough's Cave. But what's really interesting is that if you compare it to the Broken Hill specimen, which may very well be as old as Boxgrove, but from equatorial Africa, Broken Hill's a little bit longer, not much longer, but it's not nearly as heavily built as Boxgrove. And this probably has something to do with body proportions.
With only a shin bone, Trinkus had very little to go on. To squeeze every ounce of significance from it, he resorted to high-tech medical technology, the body scanner at University College Hospital.
Set up a guy here. Okay, and I need to prop him up. We can see a really nice clean cross-section here of the tibia with the outside border very clear. What we already see is a bone that is very thick, especially anteriorly, which is on this side, and moderately so across the posterior part. The most important thing we can do with the CT data is to calculate accurate measures of the amount and distribution of bone in cross-sections of the shaft of the bone. These are measurements that mechanics use or mechanical engineers use to measure the strength of structural materials in bridges and buildings and the like.
Trinkus turned the scan data into graphs that related the length of the tibia to its strength. He was surprised to discover that Boxgrove man looked even more heavily built than the Neanderthals, who were the incredible hulks of prehistory.
What we get, first of all, is a line of relatively robust individuals that includes early modern humans and also includes the tropical Middle Pleistocene specimens that we have from Indonesia and from Africa. However, above that line, we have another line of what appear to be more robust individuals, which are the Neanderthals. And this is just when we're comparing the shaft strength to the length of the tibia itself. When we put Boxgrove on that, we add it into the plot, it falls very high up, right on the line for the more robust Neanderthals.
Boxgrove man looked impossibly robust. The solution lay in body shape. All over the world, people have been moulded by climate. Near the equator, they're tall and thin, so that heat can be easily dissipated. But nearer the poles, bodies are squatter, so their owners can conserve heat. What shape was Boxgrove man?
When we give him an equatorial body shape, the tibia comes out being extremely robust, exceptionally so, at such a high level that it's very unlikely that this is realistic. If we give him an Arctic body shape like the Neanderthals, what we end up with is a point that falls right on the line for the other Pleistocene humans. Robust, quite robust, but perfectly reasonable.
With Boxgrove man's vital statistics pinned down, the fossil could be linked to other discoveries in Europe and given a scientific name, Homo heidelbergensis.
In Europe, we haven't got a tibia that's as complete as the one from Boxgrove to compare with. In fact, we've really got nothing else of this age in Europe to compare with in terms of the tibia. But we've got other parts of the skeleton which at least show a comparable degree of robusticity, of bodily strength, and of the same age. And